following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
So Eddie has Chavo hold the ropes open for him, and then he just jumps over him. What a dick move. Nash sidesteps, then starts shadow boxing and doing karate. And I hope for Giant's sake that Six did not give Nash any pointers. Where is Six, by the way? The trash can made sense. There's obviously going to be a trash can around. But where the fuck did the crutches come from?
In the trash can. Obviously.
Somebody came to the arena needing crutches and then like, oh, I'm better now. Let me just throw these away.
Yeah.
Buffer really didn't say anything for Hogan other than apparently Hogan still calls himself the World Heavyweight Champion. It's funny.
Yes, it's funny. Not even a champion, and he still gets announced as champion.
Yeah.
They still got that in there.
Remember Robin Del Mooney? Punks like this all day long. Root says, yeah, give him the Robbinsdale crunch. Ha 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 ha. I'm going to call you out on the carpet. You didn't win at Starrcade. You didn't win at Sold Out. You didn't win at Super Brawl. You didn't win here tonight. Now you are a bona fide loser. And Tony's like, God damn, Gene. Well, that brings us to our Wrestling Rewind. This week is WCW Uncensored, 1998. Starts off with a pretty straightforward video package. We see Hogan and Savage. They're going to face each other in a steel cage. And then Scott Hall and Sting are facing each other for the World Heavyweight title. And we're in Mobile, Alabama. Tony Schiavone, Mike Tenay, Bobby the Brain Heenan are on commentary. Schiavone reveals that Savage is still in the NWO somehow after, getting jumped by the entire faction 2 pay-per-views ago and costing its leader the heavyweight title the last pay-per-view. So he says it's all come down to a steel cage with 2 of the biggest egos and most recognizable names in professional wrestling. This isn't just a storied rivalry. This is a battle for NWO supremacy. Tenay says Hogan and Savage are fighting it out to be top dog in the NWO. Schiavone turns to Heenan, says we all want to see the NWO crumble, but Scott Hall has his chance to win the World Heavyweight title, and that will put the NWO right back in the driver's seat. Heenan doesn't like their chances. He claims that the rest of the NWO, especially Hulk Hogan, will lose their fucking minds if Scott Hall walks into the dressing room wearing the heavyweight title. Doesn't make sense since Hall's a founding member. I don't know why the rest of the NWO would have an issue.
Well, Hogan mainly.
Well, yeah, Hogan. Schiavone chimes in that Hogan said he'd welcome Scott Hall as the World Heavyweight Champion. And Heenan says that's because Hogan thinks he's just going to hand over the belt to him. Nah. So is that the expectation? We think Scott Hall is just going to hand the belt over? I feel like the commentary puts a lot of words in these wrestlers' mouths.
Well, we don't know what happened on the TV, though.
That's true.
That might have been a thing.
So the first match of the evening is Eddie Guerrero versus Booker T for the WCW Television Championship. Eddie comes out with Chavo, and if I remember correctly, this is the storyline where Eddie basically drove Chavo insane. They had a match where if Eddie lost, he'd have to go back to being a boring babyface, traditional lucha roots and shit. Mm-hmm. But if Chavo lost, he'd have to be Eddie's little disciple. And Eddie made Chavo wear a shirt that said Eddie Guerrero is my favorite wrestler. And from this, Chavo comes up with Pepe, has a feud with Norman Smiley.
We haven't seen him yet.
Eddie ultimately created the LWO. Chavo, in a role reversal, wanted to be on Eddie's team, but Eddie didn't want anything to do with Chavo because he's fucking nuts. Like, he broke him and he threw him away. And so that's something to look forward to. So Eddie has Chavo hold the ropes open for him. You know how, like, the valets hold the ropes open for the wrestlers?
Yeah.
And then he just jumps over them. What a dick move. So it starts with Eddie doing his best Savage impression and refusing to engage with Booker T in any way, shape, and form. He tries and fails to get the jump on Booker and gets hit with a monster sidewalk slam. Booker dumps Eddie out of the ring. Eddie screams at Chavo for not helping. Looks like Chavo said Eddie's on his own tonight. I think that's what he said. Eddie gets back in the ring, tries to shake Booker's hand. Booker accepts the handshake, but he crushes Eddie's hand and turns it into a heel kick. And Eddie's scream was great. Ah! Booker hits a power slam, signals for the end. Eddie runs out of the ring, tries to leave the match. Booker gives chase, slams Eddie on the entrance ramp, and drags him back to the ring. Booker hits a gorilla press slam, goes for the top rope. Eddie recovers, crotches him on the turnbuckle, and then Eddie hits a superplex. Booker recovers, whips Eddie in the ropes, hits a super kick. He goes for his scissor kick. Eddie sidesteps, and he drops Booker in the leg he was standing on, which is a great little tactic. So then Eddie just viciously attacks Booker's leg. He stomps and does the springboard crossbody onto Booker's leg on the apron, which is great. He even tries a leg submission, and he did a routine with Nick Patrick where he put his feet on the ropes. And Nick Patrick is the perfect person to do that routine with.
Didn't he get caught?
Eventually, yeah. There was 3 times he put his foot on the ropes, and then Nick Patrick would just stop and go check on Eddie's feet. And then he'd ask him, "Did you put your foot on the ropes?" And of course, Eddie would say, "No." "Don't you put your foot on the ropes?" And then eventually, "I'll see you." Eddie does a springboard forward roll onto Booker's leg. He goes for a crossbody and loses his balance. Awkward landing, but it wasn't too gruesome there. It wasn't like The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Booker hits Eddie with a flapjack out of nowhere, does a spin-a-rooney, hits a scissor kick. Then he hits an Alabama slam, goes for a missile drop kick. Eddie sidesteps it, and Booker lands on his feet. And I guess his knee's fine now. He launches Guerrero in the turnbuckles, goes for a Harlem sidekick. Eddie sidesteps that. Booker gets fucked up on the ropes. Eddie goes for a superplex again, I think. And Booker pushes Eddie off. Eddie lands on his feet, does a backward somersault. And Booker hits a missile drop kick when Eddie gets to his feet. 1, 2, 3. And Chavo was happy for Booker after the match, head bobbing to his music. And Eddie confronted Chavo and beats the shit out of him.
Yeah, I liked how they had their little disagreement. He was like, we're cool. And he waited until he turned his back.
Of course. I'm loving Booker's singles run.
Yeah, he's having a good little run for himself.
And he's facing good competitors. He's not just having bullshit matches.
Yeah. Is that your build a champion?
Yeah. I miss Stevie Ray, though.
On Peacock, they did like an auto preview thing. Apparently, at some point, Stevie Ray comes back with a very different looking Ahmed Johnson.
I do know that's coming.
And they're like, yeah, Harlem Heat 2.0 or something.
It was like Big T or something.
Yeah. Emphasis on the big.
Yeah. And that's when Stevie Ray used the slapjack. Oh, he's got that slapjack.
Oh, yeah.
He'd have.
Oh, yeah, the slapjack is coming.
He has a literal slapjack, and then he uses a move called the slapjack.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a great match. Just wonder what happened to Booker's knee at the end there. Didn't seem like it was injured anymore, just all of a sudden.
Adrenaline, they always chalk it up to.
Okay. Hope Chavo and Eddie get more pay-per-view time in the future. So we get Conan and Juventud Guerrero. It's a special challenge match. I love those. What's your favorite special challenge match?
I guess this one.
All right. Mine too. So this is Never Surrender Juvi, who somehow became a better wrestler after losing his mask. And then he attacked Conan from behind with a spinning heel kick as soon as the bell rang. And he head scissored Conan out of the ring. Conan drags Juvi to the floor, tosses him into the steel steps. Conan drags the steel steps to the middle of the floor for some reason, and then tries to slam Juvi's face into him, which I think he would have been better just dragging Juvi over there versus the steel steps because they were so heavy.
Juvi seemed to be heavy.
Juvi counters and does a springboard attack on Conan off the steps. Then they get back in the ring. Juvi hits a springboard drop kick. Conan recovers, basically snake eyes Juvi on the ropes, then applies a modified Indian deathlock. And then the way Conan turned that into a cradle, my God.
Yeah, that could have been the end of the match, really.
Right. I don't know how
he was getting out of that.
I don't know how his tibia didn't just snap.
Who, Conan's?
No, well, either one, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly Juvi. He's standing there basically on one leg.
Yeah, he was really tied up, as Dusty would have said.
So Conan hits a release German suplex. Juvi flipped all the way over and landed face first. It's great. Then he slingshots Juvi to the corner, starts stomping him out. And Conan takes the laces of his boot and scrapes it across Juvi's face. Then he tosses Juvi out of the corner by his hair like a bitch. Talks shit. Conan locks Juvi in a Boston Crab. And then grabs Juvi's arm and picks him up, still holding onto the crab. They call it a rocking horse. And then Conan proceeds to drop Juvi straight on his neck and sits on him. I don't know if that was intentional or if it was an accident because he kind of just kept going. But then there was a split second where he kind of had like an oh shit moment.
Yeah, I don't know.
Conan lifts Juvi up and does a reverse torture rack, which I don't know how that worked. And then he sits Juvi on the turnbuckle, facing the crowd, goes for a release German suplex again. Juvi flips all the way over, lands on his feet, drop kicks Conan, who's he's stunned, just hanging there. Conan tries whipping Juvi to the ropes again. Juvi tries to baseball slide under Conan's legs. Conan just snatches Juvi by the hair and whips him into the ropes again. Hits another release German suplex. Conan goes for a gut wrench powerbomb. Juvi counters it with an X Factor. Then he goes for his 450 splash, and Conan rolls out of the way, just in the nick of time. But Juvi lands on his feet. So Conan snatches Juvi and hits a cradle DDT. So Juvi goes for a belly-to-back suplex. Conan counters it with a white noise. Then he goes for a nonchalant pin. Juvi kicks out. Then he locks in a crucifix pin on Conan. 1, 2, 3. What a bullshit finish. So after the match, Juvi tried attacking Conan, but got hit with a cradle DDT and tossed out of the ring like a piece of trash. And I liked aggressive Conan. I
I
thought
don't
the
know.
submissions were a bit out of character, though.
Yeah.
So either
And
be
they're trying to tell a story that it's like the mask was holding Hoovy back. Now
Yeah.
he's out of the mask. He's getting a push, it seems.
I seem to remember Heenan on a Nitro saying it's easier to breathe and see without the mask, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably better than I expected.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
We have Mean Gene Okerlund talking to J.J. Dillon on the entrance ramp. Dillon says he has to address some requests from the locker room. Giant approached Dillon requesting that the powerbomb be made legal for his match later with Kevin Nash. He was very adamant. So Dillon went to Nash, who was overjoyed and agreed to allow the powerbomb to be legal. Dillon says, therefore, for tonight and tonight only, the powerbomb is legal. And apparently it was just one request rather than the some requests that Dillon mentioned from the start because he had to leave. So I guess the Giant reckons he can powerbomb Kevin Nash.
Which he doesn't use, so.
Dean Malenko versus Chris Jericho for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. And at this point, Chris Jericho is the master of 1,004 holds. He made sure to let us know. Starts off as you'd expect. Malenko's all business, and he gave Jericho a wrestling lesson. Jericho grabs an arm lock and yells, "This is move 643." Malenko then proceeds to flip Jericho on his ass. Jericho throws a tantrum after being leveled with a shoulder tackle. Then they shove each other a bit. And then Jericho hits a enziguri. Malenko rolls to the apron, and Jericho tries his corner springboard thing to the outside and misses. And Jericho teases leaving the match, just getting all frustrated. He's all the way to the top of the entrance ramp, and then he just walks back to the ring. So back in the ring, Malenko stomps Jericho out. Jericho catches Malenko with a modified spine buster, then starts strutting. Heenan said Jericho looked like a praying mantis. Jericho takes control, hits a couple suplexes and a lion salt. They trade punches. Malenko starts to fire up and repeatedly headbutts Jericho. It hits a belly-to-back suplex. Jericho hits a standing senton and stays on offense. At one point, he drapes Malenko in the corner and just starts beating on him. Then he whips him into the corner and gives chase. Malenko sidesteps, goes for a belly-to-back suplex. Jericho ends up flipping all the way over, lands on his feet, and he goes for a suplex. And Malenko blocks that, tries to counter with his own suplex, which was reversed, and Jericho hits a reverse superplex. So nice little counters and stuff. Although they seem to be abusing the flip over and land on your feet shit.
Yes, they do that a lot, yeah.
Jericho tries to whip Malenko into the corner again. Malenko sidesteps to the apron. Jericho follows and does a springboard right hook from the corner, which is a great little move.
Yeah, I mean, it was good what it turned into, but I think he was going for his springboard drop kick, but he either slipped or Malenko was too close or something, so he turned it into just a punch.
I don't know. It looked intentional to me, but what do I know? Malenko goes for a German suplex. It's reversed. Jericho sets Malenko on the top rope. Goes for a belly-to-back superplex. Malenko counters that into a crossbody midair. Then Malenko goes for an apron suplex. Jericho escapes and hits the ropes. Malenko tries to catch him with a drop kick and misses. Jericho goes for a lion tamer. Malenko got to the ropes. He didn't get him in it. The struggle was more of him trying to apply it to Malenko. And Malenko just kind of twisted his way to the ropes, and the crowd just really popped for that. So Jericho gets Malenko on the turnbuckles again, goes for a top rope Frankensteiner, which is countered into a gutbuster from the top rope. Malenko goes for a drop kick, and Jericho catches his legs, locks in the lion tamer. Malenko goes to the ropes again. Jericho drags him back to the middle of the ring and really cinches his in. Gets on the one knee, which makes the lion tamer like the best submission ever.
Yeah, when he gets that knee down, it's over.
And Malenko is forced to tap.
I thought it was a good match. I like Jericho's little run. And again, this is how you get over as a champion. He's a heel, but he'll go out there and wrestle a good match, but then still win. And still be heel in the match. So I don't know. I'm liking young Jericho. And then Dean is Dean. He's always stellar.
Baby Gunther.
They did call him the ring general a couple times.
I know. So Mean Gene comes out, and Jericho thinks he's going to get interviewed. Gene ignores him and heads straight to the ring to talk to Malenko. Malenko's super pissed off that he lost. He's kicking the ropes and grabbing his hair and shit. Doing that thing where you grab the sides of your hair and throw your hands out. So Mean Gene says to Malenko, "Dean Malenko, everybody thought coming into this match here tonight, you were going to beat Chris Jericho. I talked to people in Las Vegas, Nevada. The odds makers even picked you to win tonight. But you didn't." Then he shoves the mic in Malenko's face. Malenko just shakes his head in disappointment. Mean Gene continues. "Dean Malenko, I've known you since you've been a young man. I knew your great father that preceded you in this tremendous sport before you. Dean Malenko, This is a match you should have won tonight, and you didn't. Mean Gene shoves the mic back in Malenko's face. This time, Malenko nods in disappointment. Mean Gene's not done. Dean Malenko, you are 0 for 4 in WCW mega events. I'm going back to Starrcade. I'm going to call you out on the carpet. You didn't win at Starrcade. You didn't win at Sold Out. You didn't win at Super Brawl. And you didn't win here tonight. Now you are a bona fide loser. Mean Gene shoves the mic back in Dean Malenko's face. And Tony's like, God damn, Gene. Malenko just breathes. Maybe in disappointment there too. Gene's still cooking. Where does Dean Malenko go from here? Gene shoves the mic back in Malenko's face. Malenko finally just says home and walks off. Well, that's not going to stop Mean Gene. Home? He's going home? Tony, I don't have a clue. This man answers no questions and then comes up with that for an answer. He's going home? Shivani said it best. Okerlund raked Dean across the coals. And I'm like, did Malenko fuck his wife or something?
Yeah, I don't know what exactly that was about.
Damn.
Like, yeah, he gave him the riot act. Jeez. Like, so out of character. And, you know, when he's like, you are a loser.
A bona fide
God.
loser. Pointing at him. He's got his finger in his face.
Yeah, this is the weirdest little interaction there.
Yeah,
But I guess, you know, they touched on it. I knew your father, so I guess they had some kind of close relationship. But Jesus, he didn't have to do it like that.
He also mentioned Vegas, so maybe he had money riding on it.
Oh, yeah, they could be.
Which is, yeah, it was a great match until we found out Gene bet on the match.
Like, he had bass in his voice. And
Yeah.
Also, what was Dean supposed to do? You were supposed to win this and you didn't. And then he's supposed to mic his face. What? That's not even a question. Like, aren't you supposed to ask me a question?
No, you need to confirm that you're a loser and explain why.
Yeah, how can you look at yourself in the mirror? Better
Dean
than pimping the
Malenko, I think
hotline,
it's
for
best
sure.
that I take your wife and children someplace safe away from you. Loser.
Yeah, and you'll be lucky to see him again if you keep this up.
So we go to the internet position once again. Mark Madden and Tony the Tiger are talking to Raven. Raven's irate. I guess they were asking a lot of Paige and Benoit questions. Madden says Paige and Benoit are fighting each other, and you can walk out with the title. Isn't that what you want? Raven says, revenge is a dish best served cold, and it may be 75 degrees in Mobile, Alabama, but it'll be icy cold for Diamond Dallas Page and Chris Benoit when I walk out with the United States title. Quote the Raven, nevermore. Scott Steiner versus Lex Luger. Big Papa Pump is here. Holla, if you hear me. You big bad booty daddy.
Well, he's not all that yet. He's got to get the chainmail hat thing.
I did enjoy that he just had plain white trunks.
Yeah, he's still transforming.
He's got the hair. That's all that matters.
The hair and the goatee thing.
Mm-hmm. So Steiner jumps on Luger before he can get his other foot in the ring. And he does a belly-to-belly suplex, then just beats the fuck out of Luger. Steiner tosses Luger out of the ring, beats his ass on the floor, drags Luger to the apron, tries to suplex him back in the ring. Luger blocks it, counters it with his own suplex that sends Steiner back to the floor. Luger catches Steiner with a double axe handle when he gets to his feet. He beats up Steiner on the floor. Steiner gets sent over the guardrail. They get back to the ring. Luger hits an inverted atomic drop, a couple forearms, hits a power slam, signals for the torture rack, goes to pick Steiner up. Steiner kicks Luger in the dick when the ref wasn't looking. And Steiner immediately gets Luger in the Steiner recliner. Like half of Luger was just hanging off the apron. So it was like right where he was just laying. Steiner yells at Nick Patrick that Luger is out and to call it. And Patrick's like, no, he's not. Steiner just throws Luger down and gets in Patrick's face. I said, call it! So roided. Steiner grabs a chair. He's about to do nasty things to Luger with it. And out comes Rick Steiner. Scott flees to the ring to get away from Rick. Luger attacks Steiner with a forearm when he's not looking. At the same time, Scott Norton attacks Rick Steiner from behind. And Luger gets the pin 1-2-3 from a forearm. Norton's beating Rick Steiner's ass on the floor. Scott Steiner takes out Nick Patrick and starts beating up Luger. Grabs the chair again. Luger runs away. And I guess Rick Steiner came back from his ass beating and took out Norton because he's in the ring now. And then Steiner tries to clobber Rick with the chair and he gets tossed out of the ring. And then Norton and Scott Steiner cower and go to the back. And then Rick Steiner and Luger stand tall.
And I'm sure we're going to get a tag team match out of that.
I believe he teams with Bagwell, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Bagwell was the one that got him in
Yeah.
with their little bromance thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
They're admiring of each other's muscles.
I like your muscles. No, I like your muscles.
Flex for me. Tell me how big they are. One would say that might be considered gay. That's not us, of course.
Of course. So I will say, up until this point, this was a really damn good pay-per-view. Then we get Raven versus Chris Benoit versus Diamond Dallas Page in a triple Jeopardy match. It's no DQ, falls count anywhere for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. And it starts off with a 3-man lockup. Then they lock up again.
Now, I do want to point out that Tony Schiavone on the microphone said, I've never seen 3 men hook up at the same time before. So I just wanted to point that out. It was a very important commentary note there.
I can't believe Heenan let him get away with that. So yeah, they lock up again, and then fists start flying. Then they lock up for a third time, and they all fall out of the ring like morons. Benoit and Raven throw Page into the steel steps, then they start fighting each other. Benoit gets Raven in the ring, starts beating the fuck out of him. Page recovers, starts kicking Benoit's ass, does a gut-wrench powerbomb on the ropes. Ref refuses to count. So DDP covers Benoit. Remember, this is falls count anywhere. The ref refuses to do the count because Benoit's arm is under the ropes. Page screams at the ref that it's fucking falls count anywhere. The ref reiterates that rope breaks will still be a thing in this match. What?
Well, WCW, they always do that.
So fucking annoying. Benoit baseball slides out of the ring into the Raven. Page hits a crossbody to both of them on the floor. Then he hits Raven with a swinging neck breaker. Benoit hits Raven with a suplex right after that. And Page hits Raven with a pancake. And then Benoit hits Raven with a splash or a diving headbutt, either or. I think that was a splash.
A splash, yeah. It's supposed to be a headbutt, but it wasn't.
Yeah. He did the headbutt, like, arm thing. Like the trust fall.
Yeah, they mentioned it. I think they said he was too close or something for the headbutt.
Benoit and Page fight each other on the floor. Raven dives on them. Raven and Benoit get thrown in the guardrail. And then they all fight each other on the entrance ramp. Raven grabs a trash can from somewhere. And then Benoit and Page immediately put it over Raven's head and pummel him with crutches that came out of nowhere. Benoit beats Page's ass with one of the crutches and the trash can. Then Benoit hits a snap suplex on Page on the entrance ramp. And Raven and Benoit throw Page through the Uncensored sign at the very top of the entrance ramp twice. So he's out for a while. Benoit and Raven start fighting. Benoit has a kitchen sink somehow. And Raven takes out the internet position. He finds a stanchion rope, which is a movie theater, the little ropes that they use, and strangles Benoit with it. I don't know where the fuck they're finding these Looney Tune weapons.
Yeah, it just showed them with the weapons, not where they found them.
They just go off camera and they're
searching
there.
for them.
Mm-hmm.
But about that internet position, I didn't know it was just like there. I thought they were actually in the back somewhere.
Nope, they're right there for everybody to see. A Raven leans up the internet position table against the entrance ramp, tries to whip Benoit into it, and Benoit reversed it, so Raven went flying through the table, sort of. He went flying into it and it broke. I wouldn't say he crashed through it. So Benoit grabs the stanchion cord and drags Raven back to the ring with it. They get to the ring. Raven punches Benoit in the dick and grabs a chair so he can do the drop toe hold spot. Which, if you get repeatedly drop toe hold by a weapon that you retrieve, wouldn't you just stop that? Like, how many times do you got to get shot with your own weapon?
Yeah, you would think he would do that.
So Benoit wedges the chair into the turnbuckles. Cut back to the entrance ramp, and we see Page slowly crawling to the ring. Like his legs aren't moving. And I'm thinking, okay, so what are you going to do when you get there if you're in that condition? So Raven gets whipped.
He hadn't thought that part of it out yet.
Raven gets whipped into the chair. Page is still crawling. Schiavone says he's never seen anything like that. And Heenan says he's making a good time at least.
Which was a funny line.
It was. And Benoit gets Raven in a sleeper hold after the ref broke up a pin due to a rope break. Because, yeah, he broke up a second pin via rope break. Because that's a fucking thing in this no disqualification falls count anywhere match that has kitchen sinks.
Yeah, there definitely should not have been a rope break because it's no DQ. I don't know. You're not supposed to stop the count. Or if there's a submission, that's not supposed to break the hold.
Well, it makes no sense because there's no rope breaks outside the ring where falls count anywhere.
That too.
So
just put him outside and then you don't have to worry about ropes.
Lack of goddamn logic. So Page finally gets to the ring. Benoit puts a sleeper hold on the Raven. And then Page sneaks up behind both of them, and it's like a triple sleeper hold. So we're going back to that fucking three-way shit. Raven breaks it up by doing a double jawbreaker, which was dumb. Benoit does the rolling German suplexes to Raven. Page came up from behind Benoit and German suplexed both of them at the same time. Raven starts pummeling Benoit. He's like, all right, grab Page. So Benoit does. And Raven goes out of the ring, grabs a sign and clocks Page with it, and reveals that it was actually a metal stop sign in disguise. Outside the ring, the Flock grab a table and toss it in the ring. Raven sets it up, puts Page on it. Benoit came from behind, takes Raven out with the stop sign. He sets Raven on the top rope, does the 10 punches. Page recovers, takes out Benoit, climbs the top ropes with Raven. Diamond cuts Raven onto the table from the top rope, 1, 2, 3. Raven gets carried back by the Flock. Benoit helps Page to his feet as a sign of respect. This is where the pay-per-view took a turn for me.
I actually enjoyed the match for some reason. I don't know why. The ending could have been better, obviously, with the diamond cutter.
It was a little awkward.
There.
Page isn't like Randy Orton, where he'll put his body on the line to deliver the RKO.
That's fair. I don't know. They're just using, a little bit of everything. The stop sign, the rope thing, kitchen sink.
Yeah, that's why I didn't like the match.
As you call it, the Looney Tune weapons.
Yeah. Where are you going to just get a kitchen sink just lying around in a wrestling arena?
I don't know. And yeah, it is funny that we didn't see them searching for it. They just appeared and had the weapons.
The trash can made sense. There's obviously going to be a trash can around. But where the fuck did the crutches come from?
In the trash can. Obviously.
Oh, okay. Somebody came to the arena needing crutches and then like, oh, I'm better now. Let me just throw these away.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got upgraded.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the hookiness. Like the 3-way lockups, the 3-man sleeper hold, and the 3-man German suplex. The Looney Tunes weapons were stupid. I felt bad for Raven because he got like all of the offense. He just beat the fuck out of him. And of course, he was the one to take the pin.
Yeah. The stop sign, though. Do you remember WCW NWO on Super NES? Or was it 64? No, it was on 64. WCW versus NWO. Maybe Revenge. You get the stop sign in it, and you hit the person, and they're holding the block button, and the block is just to put your chest out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're hitting them. It took me back there for some reason. That was a fun game, though.
It was a great game. It's one of the best games.
Yeah.
So we have Kevin Nash versus the Giant. Giant comes out wearing a neck brace, so he's still feeling the effects from Kevin Nash's powerbomb.
Getting dropped on his head.
Nash throws up 2 NWO hands, gets a modest cheer. Giant does the choke slam signal. The crowd roars, so he's super over. So they lock up. Giant pushes Nash into the corner, goes to finish him. Nash sidesteps, then starts shadow boxing and doing karate. And I hope for Giant's sake at this point that Six did not give Nash any pointers. Where is Six, by the way? Is he in DX by this point?
That's what I was thinking, because he hasn't been on TV for a while.
Okay.
They do
98.
acknowledge him, but yeah.
So they lock up again. Nash tries to chain wrestle and gets cocky. Giant just decks him with a clothesline. Giant hits one elbow drop and misses the next one. Doesn't sell the neck at all. Nash gets dumped out of the ring. Giant tries to snake eyes Nash on the ring post. Nash escapes, pushes Giant into the steel ring post instead. They get back to the ring. Nash starts working on Giant's neck. Lots of standing elbows. Nash chokes Giant with his foot on the corner. Then he applies a sleeper hold. And Giant tries to fight out, but Nash just beats him to the mat. Nash does a little guillotine sit-down thing with Giant hanging on the ropes. Then he takes Giant's neck brace off. He turns Giant over, so he's kind of in the Andre spot. And he's going to do the guillotine thing again. But Giant managed to block it with a kick to the gut, which would have been hella nasty if Nash went through with it.
Yeah.
So Nash headbutts Giant. That only fucks Nash up. Giant hits another headbutt and a couple clotheslines. And after a couple right hooks, Giant scoop slams Nash like he's nothing. And he signals for a choke slam. But then he goes for a power bomb. And Brian Adams, Crush, comes up from behind and cracks Giant in the back with a baseball bat for the disqualification. And Adams starts beating the fuck out of Giant with the bat, but Giant is still on his feet. Virgil and Conan come out and beat up the Giant. And Giant fights off Conan and Virgil. Adams attacks Giant with the bat again. Giant just grabs the bat and delivers a headbutt to Adams. And then he breaks the fucking bat over his knee. Virgil gets chokeslammed. Conan gets chokeslammed. Giant goes to chokeslam Adams, but Nash finds another bat from somewhere and hits Giant with it. He broke it over Giant's shoulder. And Nash signals for a powerbomb, goes to snatch Giant up. Giant begins to scream and shake and get to his feet. Nash and Adams shit themselves and are like, fuck this. They run. They drag Conan and Virgil out of the ring with them. And Scott Norton was there and didn't do shit, which, I too would have sent Virgil to attack the Giant instead of Scott fucking Norton.
Well, at that point, it was just like, what are you going to do? The man just took a bat to the head, and Virgil got choke slammed out of the building, too. The hype he got on that.
Giant chases all the NWO guys to the back. So no decisive conclusion to this feud yet. So I wonder if we're going to get one or if this just dies. I can't remember.
I'd be okay with that being the last one.
You don't want to see Nash get his comeuppance?
I don't want these two in the ring together anymore. I mean, it was fine for what it was, but I don't know.
At least Nash didn't think he was a cruiserweight this time.
True.
Mr. Perfect versus Bret Hart. Perfect comes out with Rick Rude. Shivani tells us up to this point we've yet to see wrestling matches, only struggles. This is different. Hart comes out, and he still has this shitty bootleg theme, which I don't know why WWE didn't at least attempt to sue him. It's basically the same theme, just with drums and shit over it.
I couldn't even really hear the theme. But yeah, they should have do a Jericho thing and just put his music over it.
Mm-hmm. So it starts off with Bret ready to just fucking go. Perfect isn't, so he goes out of the ring, collects himself, talks to Rude. Then Perfect gets back in the ring, he slaps Hart. They lock up, go to a stalemate. Perfect yells at the ref, accusing Bret of having slime on him. Bret takes control with a side headlock, and I loved how Perfect grabbed Bret's hair and wouldn't let go. It was almost like a I'll let go if you let go type of thing. Perfect gets to his feet, whips Bret to the ropes. Bret takes him down with a shoulder tackle and a really ugly arm drag. Perfect had issues with his jumping.
Yeah, they definitely had a timing issue there.
Perfect leaves the ring frustrated, talks to Rude. Rude grabs Bret's leg from the floor. Perfect uses the distraction to attack Bret. Didn't do dick though, because Bret slams Perfect's face into the turnbuckle. Tries to suplex Perfect back to the ring. Perfect counters, but gets taken down. Bret locks in the sharpshooter. Rude does not hesitate and comes in to level Bret. Somehow the ref did not see it.
He's out of position, of course.
He's still facing Bret, and Bret takes the bump.
I like how there's the moments where, so Bret's putting the submission on, so he's in clear control. You didn't see what happened, but now he's not in control, and he's laying on the ground.
Right. He just all of a sudden crashes to the mat.
Yeah. Something happened.
Right. We can deduce. And then sometimes you have the inconsistency where they play the replay after the match, and then they reverse the decisions and shit.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, well, why don't you just convert to replay for all the matches? If that's a thing.
Don't know.
So Perfect starts working on Bret's leg while Rude yells, break it, on the floor. Rude strangles Bret on the apron, and Perfect drags Bret to the ring post, smiles evilly, and begins to nod. Then he slams Bret's leg around the post. Perfect distracts the ref so Rude can stretch his leg around it again. Perfect tosses Hart out of the corner by his hair, laughs at the strands of hair he allegedly pulled out. That's wrestling. I bet he didn't pull one fucking strand of hair out. But you would have thought he pulled out a whole chunk.
Yeah.
Perfect starts slapping Hart in the corner, turns to Rude on the floor and says, yeah, remember Robin Del Mooney? Punks like this all day long. Rude says, yeah, give him the Robbinsdale crunch. Ha 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 ha. Perfect locks in a figure four, using Rude for leverage. Ref finally catches Perfect, holding on to Rude, forces the hold to break. Perfect goes for Bret's leg again. Bret starts to make a comeback. Perfect cuts him off with a casual kick to the crotch. It's very casual. And Bret tries to fight back again. Perfect hits Bret in the injured leg and beats him till he can barely move. Perfect hits a scoop slam, goes for the top rope. Bret recovers, crotches Perfect on the turnbuckle, and he starts to just beat Perfect's ass. And Perfect tries to crawl backwards out of the ring, crotches himself into the ring post. Bret hits a Russian leg sweep, a corner bulldog. He hits a backbreaker, his elbow drop from the middle rope. He tries to whip Perfect in the corner. Perfect reverses it, sending Bret sternum first into the turnbuckles. And Perfect hits his perfect plex. And Bret kicks out, of course. And Heenan lied to us, saying he's never seen anyone kick out of the perfect plex, applied by Mr. Perfect.
I've actually not seen it work in WCW.
Right. And his first match.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't won a match with it yet. At least on pay-per-view, he hasn't won with it.
I know for a fact that people have kicked out of it.
Yeah.
Rude starts yelling at the ref on the apron. Perfect gets shoved into Rude. Bret does a roll-up. Perfect reverses the roll-up with one of his own, grabs a handful of tights, and Bret actually managed to kick out. I thought that was going to be the finish. Perfect attempts to sunset flip Bret, and Bret manages to counter it into a sharpshooter. He just kind of rolled through it. Rude comes in to level Brett again, but he's too late. Perfect submits. Then Rude and Perfect beat the shit out of Brett after the match. Perfect grabs a chair. Rude hits a rude awakening and yells at Perfect, "Fuck him up!" And Perfect clobbers Brett with the chair, and they do a spot where Perfect was supposed to whack the fallen Brett in the back of the head with it. It was awkward because he obviously hit the mat and not Brett's head, and Shivani immediately called it out. It's like, oh, he just dropped the chair.
Yeah, picture a one-man concerto.
I wonder if it was because it was one of them cushiony chairs and not the metal chairs. I think the goal was to get the chair sound, and obviously that's not what happened. Rude and Perfect stand victorious over Brett, who is writhing in pain, and then they play Brett's music and now announce him as the winner. He sure doesn't look like it. Perfect slaps the ref for no reason, and then Rude yells in the camera, "The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be? I don't think so."
Got him.
I will be honest, I don't know if it was the match of the night, but it was pretty goddamn close. I think for me, Booker and Eddie Guerrero have that honor.
I would point to one of the earlier matches, either that one or Jericho Malenko, just because of the Rude involvement. Took a little bit away out of it, but there's some good callbacks to their King of the Ring match. I don't know. It was just a wrestling purist match.
I appreciated that they were childhood friends and they were bullies.
They sure were.
Big muscular bullies.
And we got to see a rude awakening.
It wasn't quite a rude awakening. It was more of a swinging neck breaker, but I'll take it. He didn't do the hip swivel thing.
Yeah.
Up next is Scott Hall in Sting for the World Heavyweight Championship. And Hall comes out with Dusty Rhodes, and he grabs the title belt from the referee and holds it up. Sting gets in Hall's face, yanks the belt away, and starts kicking his ass. They go back and forth for a bit. Hall hits Sting with a choke slam, then mocks the Giant. Heenan's like, "Oh, come on, Scott." Well, not that I'm cheering for him, but, you don't want to win the damn thing. Shivani just gives Heenan shit for cheering for Scott Hall. He's like, "That's what you did. You're cheering for Scott Hall." So Sting recovers, hits a bulldog, starts pummeling Hall. He drop kicks Hall out of the ring, and then Dusty coaches Hall and consoles him. Hall gets back into the ring, whips Sting into the ropes. Dusty trips him. Sting goes after Dusty. Hall decks him, hits a discus punch, which I thought was funny. A fall-away slam. Hall goes for a bulldog. Sting blocks it. They end up running into each other. Hall falls like a tree. Sting falls head first into Hall's balls. So that's still part of Sting's arsenal there. The ref starts tending to Hall. Dusty creeps into the ring, and he starts tiptoeing over to Sting. And then he stops and looks at the crowd like, "Oh, I've been caught. I'm 500 pounds and sneaking. I can't imagine why these motherfuckers see me." So he tiptoes the rest of the way to the Sting, because why waste a good sneak? And then he proceeds to elbow drop him. Sting kicks out of the elbow drop. Hall starts beating Sting's ass. Sting just stops selling. Just decides to stop. Sting hits an inverted atomic drop. Hall ends up in the corner facing the crowd. Gets hit with a stinger splash from behind. Sting goes for a sharpshooter. Dusty gets on the apron. And Sting goes after Dusty and levels him. And Hall attacks Sting. Sting ends up whipping Hall into the referee, Mark Curtis, into the corner, so he gets sandwiched. So he's out. Dusty tosses a pair of knucks to Hall, which he uses to clock Sting with. And Sting kicks out of the knuck shot. Hall goes,
what those was? I
they're
didn't
just
quite see what
knucks.
it was. I thought it was either that or like a roll of tape or something.
I mean, I think that's what it was, but it wasn't like brass knucks, just knucks.
Okay.
Hall goes for a razor's edge. Sting escapes, counters with a scorpion death drop, 1, 2, 3. After the match, Sting drops the title belt on the mat so he can crotch chop Dusty a bunch of times. And this pisses Dusty off something fierce. And he teases taking off his shirt to fight Sting. And then Sting just leaves.
I kind of felt bad that Scott Hall didn't win. I mean, I know he's never going to be champion, but I don't know. I was kind of rooting for him.
Yeah. It is a shame that he's never held a major title.
Yeah.
We're not alone in that sentiment, for sure. I think it's a shame that he doesn't get more opportunities like this, because he's definitely a main eventer. You see fucking Savage and Luger in the main event 100 times. Why can't Hall get his title shots?
I don't know. And, he's important to the whole NWO thing. He was the first man.
Well, they do a Spring Stampede commercial. What I got out of it is they compared Goldberg to a bull, which
Yes.
isn't that far off, I guess. Where is Goldberg?
It seems like he's going to be a big part of Spring Stampede, but I was surprised we didn't see him tonight.
Our main event of the evening is Hollywood Hogan versus Randy Savage, a steel cage match. And I may have asked this before, but I wonder how much they paid Michael Buffer just to say, let's get ready to rumble.
I'm sure it was a lot.
Buffer really didn't say anything for Hogan other than apparently Hogan still calls himself the World Heavyweight Champion, which is funny.
Which is, yes, it's funny because, not even champion and he still gets announced as champion.
Yeah.
So, they still got that in there.
For Savage, Buffer says the Slim Jim spokesperson is known the world over as one of the superstars of professional wrestling. His goal in this match is to leave this cage with the victory and the title, Kingpin, New World Order. He said that in public. So the bell rings, they charge each other, and Hogan wins the lockup and beats on Savage. And I honestly thought there was going to be at least 15 minutes of them stalling, because that's what they do best. Like, I could just see them both being, well, I guess they couldn't both be on the floor, but just on either side. Get him away from me. I'm not ready.
You got to play up to the crowd and,
So Hogan chokes Savage with the ropes, then screams, "Who's the man?" He does, his typical babyface offense of the back rakes and eye rakes. Hits a big boot. Tosses Savage all over the cage. Fan yells at Hogan that he's an asshole. Hogan says, "So is your mother." Everybody cheered. Hogan hits a scoop slam, misses an elbow drop. Savage starts fighting back. Strangles Hogan with one of their bandanas. Savage tries to throw Hogan in the cage. Hogan blocks it, starts whipping and choking Savage with his weightlifting belt. Hogan hits a scoop slam, goes for his leg drop, misses. Savage gets the weightlifting belt and beats the fuck out of Hogan with it. Savage starts choking Hogan with his foot and stomping him. Then he picks up the belt again and cracks Hogan over the back with it, which I thought that was great. He initially started whipping Hogan. He drops the belt and he just starts hitting him with fists and stomps and kicks and shit. He looks around, he grabs the weightlifting belt again and just gives him one crack. So Savage busts Hogan open, I think after getting thrown into the cage. He levels him with a couple running elbows. Hogan back body drops Savage in the steel cage. He picks up the belt again. He cracks Savage twice with it, and he wisely puts it on. Well, that was funny, though, because Savage had a weightlifting belt. So Hogan hits a belly-to-back suplex. Then he picks Savage up and uses him as a battering ram on the cage. And this causes Savage to bleed, too. And Hogan tosses Savage face first in the cage repeatedly, then pummels him with fists. Macho's fucked. I kind of feel bad for him because he's just like stumbling around, defenseless. Miss Elizabeth is looking good. I don't know how relevant that is to my sympathy for Savage, but that is a fact. Hogan pushes Savage out of the steel cage door. Then he tosses Savage into the guardrail. So I'm wondering what the point of the steel cage is now, if they can just fight on the floor and get back in whenever they want. And what's worse is there's a referee on the floor, Mickey J. He unlocks the cage door to let them crawl out and fight on the floor. And he locks it back up when they get in the ring. So explain that to me.
Well, Shivani mentioned that escaping the cage was one way to win the match. And then they immediately went outside the cage like, well, I guess not.
So Hogan and Savage toss each other into the cage. So they're both down. Savage does a Undertaker sit-up, and then he climbs the cage just to hit a double axe handle. Savage hops up to his feet, points to the heavens. Shivani thought that meant he was immediately climbing to the cage again. So Savage tosses Hogan in the cage, signals for an elbow drop, hits a scoop slam, then he climbs the cage again. A mysterious man, only known as the Disciple, comes running out. Spoiler alert, that's Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
I thought so.
He takes out Mickey J on the floor, grabs the cage door keys, and infiltrates. Then he starts to drag Hogan out of the cage, stops. The inside ref gets in his face. Disciple throws him into the cage. Meanwhile, Savage is still on the top of the cage. Disciple stands in front of Savage and dares him to jump down. Then, Savage safely climbs down. Hogan recovers. Looks like him and Disciple are going to fuck Savage's day up. Hogan takes off his weightlifting belt again. It's like, now I can use it. And then Sting slowly descends from the rafters to help Savage, I guess. And Sting and Savage have Hogan and Disciple cowered in the corner. Looks like it's all over for the NWO. And then Savage decks Sting and gives him a pile driver. And Hogan thinks Savage is his friend again. And Savage does the for life hand thing and spits at Hogan, which is very mixed signals. And Savage screams at Hogan that he doesn't like him, never will. And Hogan screams it back, "You work for me, you're part of the NWO for life." And that was Uncensored, 98.
Very confusing ending.
Just a bit.
And it was funny. Sting gets in the ring. He's siding with Savage. They had positioned themselves where they were between the door, and Hogan and Brutus would have to go through them to get out the door. And they're standing there. I knew something was happening because Tanay, for some reason, just yelled, "I can't believe it," or something like that. And then Shivani's like, "What?" He's like, "Just the way Hogan's trying to escape the cage." He's like, "Well, he's not right now." So, yeah, it was clear that something was about to happen.
Fair enough.
And yes, turns out he went early for what the Macho Man was going to do.
I thought that they were going to let Hogan and Disciple leave and then attack him from behind. Because it looked like Towers was saying, "Oh, go ahead. I won." Whatever.
Yeah. Or crawl over the cage or something.
I was actually enjoying it until Disciple came out.
Thought at one point we were going to get a Macho Man elbow drop off the top. But
probably best that that didn't happen.
Yeah. Although he did climb it with the greatest of ease.
He did.
He like leaped up there.
I just don't know if a 40 to 50-year-old man should be elbow dropping off of a steel cage. I don't know if anybody should be elbow dropping off of a steel cage, but definitely not Savage at that point.
I'm sure he knows how to land.
I don't know if there's a know how to land type of situation jumping off a steel cage.
Which is funny because that's what JR said. The Hell in a Cell match with Mick Foley.
Oh, they just know how to fall.
Oh, they know how to fall, right?
But yeah, that was Uncensored. Our next WCW pay-per-view is Spring Stampede 1998. It's in Denver, Colorado. The main event is Randy Savage versus Sting. It's a no disqualification match, of course, for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's really lazy just to have everything no DQ.
So they can get their interference in.
Yeah, that's all it is.
I'm already guessing that's why they do this.
That and so they can have a non-normal match.
That's it. A non-normal match that ends up being normal.
Yeah.
Because there's rope breaks and stuff.
Yeah, it's basically a normal match until the interference happens.
Yeah.
But up next is WrestleMania 28 from WWE. Took place April 1st, 2012 at the Sun Life Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. There were 8 matches on the events card. One pre-show match was streamed on YouTube, which was Primo and Epico versus Justin Gabriel and Tyson Kidd versus the Usos for the tag team titles.
Wow, we're already on YouTube? By the way, I didn't point it out during the review, but WrestleMania 27, the fans were still using digital cameras, so cell phones aren't even a thing yet.
Huh.
Just goes to show, like, how recent the cell phone thing is.
The main event for WrestleMania 28 was The Rock finally facing John Cena. Of course, it was a match that was advertised a year in advance, set up at WrestleMania 27. The other prominent matches were The Undertaker versus Triple H in a rematch, and they faced each other in a Hell in a Cell. Shawn Michaels served as the special guest referee. Chris Jericho faced CM Punk for the WWE Championship. Big Show faced Cody Rhodes for the Intercontinental Championship. And Daniel Bryan squared off against Sheamus for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Uh-oh.
And that was our Wrestling Rewind.
Good stuff, good stuff. But if you agree with anything, let us know in the comments. If you disagree with anything, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Follow us on all the social medias, wherever you want to follow us. And on that note, survey says, one more for the good guys.